Welcome to episode 3 of the Øredev Debrief Week. This week we get 6 chats with Øredev 2024 keynote speakers, perfect for keeping the doctor away. For this episode I talked to Kent Beck and Beth Andres-Beck right after their keynote, We're Good at Writing Software. Unfortunately, this is the week's apology episode. Due to technical troubles and mishaps, the recording was made from a small microphone on the stage instead of from the actual microphones we were using. So I have to apologize to everyone involved about how this sounds. It does get a bit better closer to the end as the crowds disperse, and I've processed the heck out of this, so this is as good as I've been able to make it. But it felt wrong to simply not release it at all, so here it is. I've edited out the worst parts as well. Anyway, there's a lot of great stuff from Kent and Beth in here, from code reviews to backlashes in software development practices. And I, of course, highly recommend you look at the recording of the keynote as well, before or after listening to this. It's a walk through the lush forest of well-working software development with plenty of ideas for everyone, just like you'd expect from Kent and Beth. Big thanks to Øredev for inviting Kodsnack again. They paid for the trip and the editing time of these keynote recordings, but they have no say about the content of the episodes. Anyway, here's what I could filter out in an even halfway listenable state. When it begins, I had just asked whether we as developers are getting better at development practices or not.
There's backlash. There's absolutely backlash. There are waterfalls coming back and you say, and it's too late, I mean, seriously.
No one was, what I think actually came out was counter. People saw crowds, people, or cowboy teams where you have this team doesn't tell anyone else how to work. Only they are responsible for their code. And they're very, people get very defensive if someone else thinks of their work, expects it, and needs it to train what are you call this, bad developers, saying, that project we call a success wasn't actually a success.
And you're putting my production at risk, based on your opinion.
Right. This is where people see code reviews as walking versions. They're about not letting code ship instead of being about the code becoming our code, and we are all going to be responsible for making it. And the place where we have a conversation about code, and we can't be in the same room for
That's a great talk about the like for code reviews. We've seen something has to be a contradiction. But in fact, having reviewed some of my code, it's still like
I need to watch that. Because I saw one of the blog posts about code reviews, and I realized there's a lot more that can be read into code reviews than what we are doing, than what I am doing.
Yeah, I think I came from so my college degree is in theater and costume design, and I have art classes as well. And one of the things we learn is how to critique effectively. So you bring your work in, you put it up on the wall, or playwriting, you'll read it, have people read it out, and then your fellow students will talk about your work as though it were like a piece of work you read in English class. Where it's like, what did I think this was trying to accomplish? Was it effective at what it was trying to accomplish? What got in the way of it? This bit over here was really confusing. I'm not sure what was going on. It kind of seems like you got lost, or I just didn't get it. But it's like, what is the purpose of this artifact, and what techniques did the artist use to make it do those things? And if you apply those techniques of critique that have evolved over literally hundreds of years, right? This is what people in the Renaissance did when they talked about art. Right.
But it's the real techniques, and you can learn them before you apply them.
Yes. Instead of
as opposed to you go
or turning it into a bug hunt.
Oh yeah. Should this be 2 months?
Yeah.
And I guess theater side is where magic circle.
Yeah.
That was really appealing to me as well, because it made me realize that part of the important bit is, inside the circle we work with the team, and that means I'm taking that really seriously instead of, I can look over there if there's anything else going on. Oh, someone made a phone call, the washing machine is done because I'm working from home today. Just that nice reminder to take it very seriously when I'm inside the work. So I think I forget that pretty regularly.
Well, it's a transition from me to us. And you should need a me, and then you should transition to us, and then you should transition back to me. And if that's built into the cycles, the weekly, daily, hourly cycles of the team, we're continually making those transitions, then it's simply burnout where you just put as much effort as possible in as long as possible until you drop. Just that kind of burnout just goes away because we're making this ritual transition, not really close, ritual, actual ritual.
Yeah, it gives people a sense of security as well, where you're not just out. You know that what you're doing is good enough because you have a community that has embraced you, and you have mechanisms by which you know if what you were doing was not helping people. Like true accountability isn't did you deliver this thing by this deadline? It's I have a relationship and you're going to notice what I did, and then we're going to have a conversation about it. And especially if it didn't serve whatever our collective purpose was. Like that's people misuse the word accountability, especially from management to these power relationships, and that's not what effective accountability is.
One of those words.
Yeah,
Someone's great.
No, it's like going through the account book and being like, where's the receipt for this line? Oh, you got the receipt, huh? Why not?
Can't have been up to any good if there's no proper receipt. Yeah, I feel like the more I do stuff with people, the more start the problem appears with doing stuff on my own. Because all the exciting misunderstandings is somehow in the stuff that I did by myself. I can just sit down and do this, yes.
For a while, the tagline of my blog was writing code for my future self.
Here I asked them to jump back to talking about backlash in software
We had
development.
very early on at a job, and then 6 months later, I came back and I was like, oh, this is really nice. I want to write this. And I was like, oh, he was past Beth. Thank you, Pasta. That was really helpful.
Actually, that was a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. I see otherwise smart people saying the way you develop products is the product organization goes and does a hero market survey, and then the design organization turns that
Here I
market
asked,
survey
why
into
is that?
wireframes, and then the program.
And then the staff engineer breaks that up into JIRA tickets, which the programmer is going to go execute.
Which is exactly the waterfall. That's for all the reasons the waterfall. But people are now non-ironically saying this is how you should develop products.
Oh, it's a lot easier to manage 40,000 engineers if you're doing it that way. And easier, I mean, like you get to be lazy and not very good at creating alignment, negotiating. Dealing with conflict-avoidant managers is a plague upon the industry.
I guess that's part of things hard as well. We're talking about starting to terraform the desert back into a forest. I can end up with this feeling that, okay, it's all up to first me and then my team to sort of push everything outward. And there's sort of no limits to how far we need to push. Yeah, it feels tiring.
Yes, and prone to failure. But over time, I believe that the teams that do this will be more successful.
And it becomes self-perpetuating when we teach people as we're doing it. So that every person who's on a team like this can go out and create more teams like this.
It really rang a bell for me when you talk about setting up a new group of engineers who are not usually in the same context. Because I've started noticing myself a little bit that when I'm in a new group with other engineers, we talk about different stuff, we learn different stuff, and suddenly that team isn't strange anymore. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Even if, and it doesn't really matter if it's for quite a brief period or if it's a long period. Maybe it's even better to mix. I don't know. Should you create those groups for the long term or the short term? Both, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's also going to be different people like different parts of that process. Some people are very excited about making new groups, and some people are very excited about running things for the long term.
Yeah.
So I always, if I'm starting a group, I'm always thinking about who is going to take this over when, because I know my attention span is not as long as the value of those is going to be in the company.
Yeah. I mean, I'm firmly in both groups. I like running stuff. New group, exciting, have stuff to learn.
But if they're valuable, people will take on board.
Yeah.
Because people love being invited to do something useful.
Yeah.
Lots of us don't know what would help move us in this direction. And even if you don't get all the way to the forest, it's better to have, like, every step you can take towards something that feels calm, that meets your needs, is going to feel better.
The way I visualize it is that our development process is a shadow cast by the power structure. So if I give you an estimate, you can say, no, that's too long. Then that's going to cast a shadow that's going to include a lot of bugs, not enough design, testing relationships with my colleagues, and without changing that power dynamic, we can't change what shadows cast.
A quick but huge thank you to everyone sponsoring us on Coffee. You too can become one of them by surfing to ko-fi.com/KODSNACK. Kodsnack, and giving us either a one-time donation or monthly support. If you support us on the coffee drinker level of €5 per month or more, you get a bunch of very nice stickers in your actual physical mailbox. And if you support us on the barista level for €10 per month or more, you also get a thank you right here. Big thanks to Albin Groen, Svante Richter, Anders Legell, Brother Ingo, and Tobbe Lundberg. Everyone who supports us helps make the podcast possible, and the more of you there are, the better we can make the podcast. We do sometimes have sponsors, but it's actually your support which is making it possible to cover our monthly costs. And if you want to support us in other ways, you can of course give the podcast a review in your podcast player. That also helps a lot. Give it a thumbs up, a star, write a comment, or whatever your player supports. Or of course, simply tell someone who might like the podcast about an episode. And remember, you're a fantastic person whether you support us or not.
Someone talked about I need to find people in the organization has the power to say yes to something. Yes. There's a lot of people that probably say no. Yes. You can't get very far with that.
And that's part of where I think staff engineering is one of the more powerful words that have come out recently, because if you have a principal engineer, they can say yes to things. The history was Google started calling engineers just engineers, and senior engineer meant 5 years of experience instead of 10 or 15. And so we needed a new word for people who had been at it longer than that. And then people realized that there's actually a different job there, where it's no longer about how much code can you write. It's about how productive are you able to make teams around you. And going out and understanding the business context. And in these very big organizations, you need somebody whose job it is to read all the documents. And so giving that role a name gives you like a lever that we didn't used to have. And then the power comes, this is part of why engineering community is so powerful. I mean, different countries have different structures and different dynamics and all of that. In America, we can get laid off pretty quick. But when we advocate together, I've seen a lot more change than if one engineer just tries to go fix this. I've not yet seen that work. We'll get fired, and then that's it.
It's just what I do as well.
You can't fire all.
I've been at that meeting. I had the VP of engineering say, if you break the build, you have to be in my office at 9 a.m. on Monday. For the next week, I'm so tired of people breaking the builds. If you break the build in my office 9 a.m. Monday, I broke the build at Sunday at 10 p.m. because I got a page, something had broken, we needed to put forgot to add a new image file to the patch that I pushed. I broke the belt. I show up with my head hanging Monday morning at 9 a.m. It's not in his office. There's a sign that says go to the conference room. And I get to the conference room, and the conference room is full. And it is all of the most productive developers in the company. Because it turned out there was no way to be committing code regularly and also not great to skill. And you saw the VP walks in and you see his face change. Because he was coming in to berate whoever was there for not being careful. And he realized that if that room quit, his company was done.
Yeah.
All of the knowledge about how everything ran was in that room.
Yeah. And suddenly I set up one of those groups.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, this is the room I wanted to be in.
Yeah.
All I had to do was break the build, as it turns out. So we improved the process, and then the build stopped breaking, and it didn't require yelling at it. I recently started a new senior staff role in one of these companies that are growing from like 30 to 50 engineer to a couple hundred engineer. Go through some very specific, like pretty predictable changes as systems fail. And the challenge is if you hire a bunch of people from companies that have already scaled, they don't necessarily know how to build it. And if you hire a bunch of people out of the desert, they'll look around and be like, oh no, we need more sand. There's your problem right there.
Insufficient sand.
Too much water.
Yeah, the dunes are tiny.
Yeah, exactly.
But thank you so much.
Thank you for the great questions. I appreciate.
Tack för att just du lyssnar på Kodsnack. Om du vill stödja oss, varför inte tipsa en bekant om podden? Eller lämna en recension i till exempel iTunes eller något annat ställe där det går att sätta betyg på poddar. Du kan också stödja oss genom att köpa oss en kopp kaffe på Coffee. ko-fi.com/kodsnack. Alla pengar går direkt till att göra podden bättre och trevligare. Du kan också komma och hänga i vår Slack-kanal. Länk finns på kodsnack.se, precis som alla andra länkar och all annan info kopplat till varje avsnitt. Sist men inte minst finns det också en länk till vår Spreadshop-butik där du kan köpa tröjor och andra prylar med Kodsnacktryck. Återigen, tusen tack för att du lyssnar. Vi hörs.
Let me put it this way, Mr. Raymer. The 9000 series is the most reliable computer ever made. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error.